Counsel, do you have an arraignment?
No.
No, okay, I see. I'll hit you up next, okay? You are Joe Castillo, is it Jose Castillo?
Jose.
Castillo, you're charged with reckless driving. You're facing up to 30 days in jail and or a $500 fine. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. On April 23rd, 2025, in Harris County, Texas, a law enforcement officer observed a vehicle going 77 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone via radar detection and weave in and out of lanes around 4 vehicles, nearly causing a crash. The law enforcement officer briefly lost sight of the vehicle, but found the vehicle parked sideways in a driveway close by. The defendant was still inside the vehicle and admitted to being the driver, but stated he was only going 60 miles per hour.
Okay. Mr. Castillo, I'm going to find that there's sufficient probable cause to go forward with the case. You run his license, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are not allowed to drive unless you have a valid Texas driver license and liability insurance in your name. Do you understand? That is a condition of your bond. I'm now also ordering you not to drive in a reckless manner, not to participate in any street takeovers, racing, anything of this nature. And if I find you do, I will put you in jail. No more PR bonds. Do you understand?
Sure. It's out of the way, Your Honor.
How old are you, sir?
18.
What do you do for a living?
I work in a warehouse.
Okay. Do you have the ability to hire a lawyer? You want a court-appointed lawyer?
I'm gonna request a attorney.
Okay. I need you to fill out an application for me. Deputy Miranda is going to give an application. I'm going to have you go to Victoria, sign and reset, and then I'm going to have you take a seat in the jury box. Do not leave until you sign all our bond conditions. You understand? Come on. You mind filing those conditions?
This was.
All right.
You are on bond for DWI, and you've now picked up a new DWI. Sir. You are charged again. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. On April 24th, 2025, in Harris County, Texas, law enforcement officers were dispatched to a crash. The law enforcement officer spoke with a complaining witness who stated he had gone to the bathroom and heard the defendant crash into the bus. The complaining witness was the bus driver. The complaining witness estimated the damages to be $1,000. Another witness saw the defendant strike the bus, get stuck between the bus and another vehicle, and then exit the driver's side door and try to push the vehicle out. The witness stated after another individual told the defendant they were calling the police, the defendant fled. Another law enforcement officer was alerted to the incident and found the defendant, who matched the description given. A witness was able to identify the defendant as the individual driving the vehicle that struck the bus. Another law enforcement officer made contact with the defendant, who stated he was coming from an Astros game where he drank. The law enforcement officer observed a moderate odor of alcoholic beverage, glossy eyes, and profuse sweat from the defendant. The defendant refused to cooperate on standard field sobriety tests. The defendant refused to provide a specimen. A blood warrant was obtained and executed.
Mr. Gallegos, I'm going to find that there's sufficient probable cause to go forward with the case. I am now taking away your privilege to drive. You are not allowed to drive at all. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
On one ankle, I'm going to put a scram monitor so I know that you're not consuming alcohol. On your other ankle, you will get a GPS monitor, and I'm giving you a curfew because I don't want you out in the middle of the night. And if I find that you're out, I will revoke your bond and make it extremely high. He's on bond for this DWI.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
revoking his bond. You're going to jail today.
Right now?
Right now.
Okay, as far as the monitors, can we
So-
waive the fee?
Absolutely, of
Okay.
course.
Can you give my stuff to my mom?
Yes.
So these are conditions. We'll have him sign now. The GPS monitor prior to release.
Are you setting the bond?
Of course. Mr. Gallegos, I want you to understand something. This is an affidavit that you're going to sign to me, that you're going to promise to me you're not going to drive. I don't give a rat's behind what your excuse is. If Jesus comes from heaven and needed to ride to church, you drive. I can have a contempt hearing. You can be facing an additional 6 months in jail and a $500 fine every time you drive. Do you understand? I am now also sending notice to DPS that I'm placing a restriction on, you're not allowed to drive, but I'm placing an additional restriction on your license that you are not allowed to drive any vehicle that doesn't have an ignition interlock on it. This notice is sent to DPS so that every single officer in the state knows that if you are in a vehicle driving, they pull you over, you don't have an interlock, they will take you to jail. Do you understand? As it stands, you are not allowed to drive for any reason. Okay, we'll have him sign this. We'll put him in back. I'll set.
Tuesday, the sixth. Okay.
What was the last name again?
Mendoza?
You were Alexa Mendoza. Miss Mendoza, you're charged with driving while intoxicated. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. On April 23rd, 2025, law enforcement officers were dispatched to a traffic collision in Harris County, Texas. The officer observed the defendant's motor vehicle on the fixed rail tracks impaled to the LRV. The law enforcement officer opened the door to check on the defendant, the sole occupant of the vehicle, and observed the defendant to be impaired. The law enforcement officer observed glossy eyes and slurred speech, and the defendant stated she left a bar where she had 8 to 10 drinks of tequila and was on the way to a concert. Standard field sobriety tests were conducted. A 6 out of 6 was reported on the HGN. The law enforcement officer notes that the defendant threw up during the HGN. The walk and turn was a 4 out of 8, and the one leg stand was a 3 out of 4. The defendant was ID'd by her Texas driver's license, and the defendant consented to a breath test yielding a .137 and a .123.
Any prior DUIs?
No, Your Honor.
License?
Check that.
Ms. Mendoza, I'm going to find that there's sufficient probable cause to go forward with the case. I'm ordering you now as a condition of your bond not to consume alcohol, illegal drugs, unprescribed controlled medication. You will be randomly tested. If you test positive, your bond will be revoked. You'll go into custody. You understand?
Yes.
You are not allowed to drive unless you have a Texas driver license and liability insurance in your name. As long as you have those, you may continue to drive. Just don't use. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
It is helpful, Your Honor.
Great. Because you have a lawyer, I will waive your appearance, but you must stay in touch with them and they'll tell you if and when you have to come back to court. For now, we'll have you go to Victoria, sign a reset. You'll get with Roxanne for your bond conditions and then you're free to go.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Royalty.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you're charged with driving while intoxicated. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. On April 24th, 2025, law enforcement officer was dispatched to a Shell gas station in Harris County, Texas. Upon arrival, the officer observed the motor vehicle to have crash damaged and to be disabled and inoperable. The law enforcement officer observed the defendant sitting in the driver's seat. The law enforcement officer observed constricted pupils, slow speech, and unsteady balance. The defendant stated that he was driving his vehicle before the accident and that he does not know what he wrecked into. The defendant stated he did not know where he was coming from before the crash. The defendant stated he consumed 1 alcoholic beverage. He also stated that he inhaled nitrous oxide approximately 20 minutes before the crash. Standard field sobriety tests were conducted. A 0 out of 6 was recorded on the HGN, a 3 out of 8 on the walk and turn, a 2 out of 4 on the one leg stand. The law enforcement officer observed an empty bottle of vodka on the driver's side floorboard an empty vodka bottle inside the center console, and a half-empty beer in the back seat. The law enforcement officer observed 3.3 liters of space gas containers of nitrous oxide and 14 1-liter nitrous oxide containers. The defendant is a registered owner of the motor vehicle. The defendant agreed to a breath test strip. However, the law enforcement officer notes that there was an interferent error and the breath test was unable to be collected. The law enforcement officer called for a drug recognition expert who completed an evaluation. The drug recognition expert stated the defendant is under the influence of cannabis and is unable to operate a motor vehicle safely. The defendant consented to a blood test and a sample was collected.
Okay. Mr. Royalty, I'm going to find that there's sufficient probable cause to go forward with the case. I'm ordering you now as a condition of your bond not to consume alcohol, illegal drugs, unprescribed controlled medication, and that includes nitrous oxide, whippets, anything of this nature. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
If I find that you use, I will revoke your bond, put you in jail, no more PR bonds. Any priority to DUIs,
No priority to
license?
eligible.
And you may continue to drive as long as you have a license and liability insurance in your name. If you don't have either, then you're not allowed to drive. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Do you have the ability to hire a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can have you fill out an application. We'll take a look to see whether you qualify. I need to know everything about you, how much money you have at the bank, what you do for a living, what kind of car you drive, how much money you have coming in, and I'll take a look to see whether you qualify. Deputy Miranda is going to give you the application. I'll have you sign a receipt with Victoria, and then we'll have you take a seat in the jury box, sir. Sir, please.
Judge, that's it for now.
Okay.